deception takes on various forms. Do we deceive when we are being polite? Or do we deceive people with makeup? Do we deceive when we are being respectful to elders? Do we deceive when we try to appear more stoic than we actually are? There is a thin line of deception and your desired state, which could actually be good for you and, of course, beneficial, and to others as well. Because to deceive is to appear well, it's just to misrepresent the actual state or information, or maybe the state of your being. So, but don't we do that as well when we just want to change the state of our being, or when we want to, perhaps when we don't like the information we already do have? There is the popular phrase that fake till you make it. And why does it exist? Because self-deception comes to the surface of deception. Because to deceive convincingly, you can make yourself to believe it first. And then you don't have to deceive people anymore. You're already stating what you believe in, right? And here is the thinnest line of deception and self-deception, and your belief, transformative belief, that changes the actual reality to your desired reality. And I think the line would be your awareness. So I believe your awareness would cross this line, and sometimes the desired state of being is not bad in itself. It's just the way through which you get to the state that can be damaging. And the problem with deceit is that you hide the actual state of being. You hide the actual information, and you split the comprehension of truth. And you when you lie to people, when you deceive people, you stop the excess. You deny the excess for them to know the truth that you know, the information that you do know, and the one you also believe in. Your awareness. You deny your conscious awareness to these people. And the problem is that people need to compare each other's perceptions, each other's worldviews and thoughts to understand what is the actual state of being, and to move closer to the truth, because our subjective perception is still limited, and we understand it. We understand that we don't truly know how to what to do in a certain situation, how to treat the person, because we don't know the actual state of being. We don't know what the person feels. We don't know with what kind of problems the person faces himself. We have not seen it all. In personal relationships, we perhaps do have a reason to to take something personally and be offended because the person intended the malevolent act, but perhaps not. Perhaps there had been something that caused directly this person to behave this way. Maybe we just underestimate the what the person were going through, the kind of choices he needed to make, and etc., etc., his hardship and his pain, and in everything else, just like that, we are in doubt what to do and what to make of it, because we are limited by our perception. And the only way we can access the other person's perception and to move a little bit closer to the truths beyond our own mind is for the other person to express openly and honestly what he actually thinks and believes. But when we deceive, when we lie, we deny the person opportunity to know the truth as it is. And we also undermine the trust completely. With the smallest acts of deception and lie, we can undermine the trust to the core. Because the deception would imply that you can fracture the reality whenever it would benefit you, and that you would do it. You would put you would prefer the value of your own benefit over the value of the genuine and honest relationships, right? And over the value of providing the other person, value of the things you believe in. So you undermine. I think you undermine not only the other person's capacity to know the truth. You also undermine your own agency. You undermine your own perception, because lies and deception becomes pathological. And as I said, the self-deception serves as a tool for better deception. Because deception, and especially lies, they are costly. They consume resources, time, energy, because lies do not stand on their own. They are dependent on the truth and on the false narratives, which should be constructed to substitute the truth, right? And especially when your lies are challenged, or the things you lie about are challenged, you have to maintain the confidence. You should the narrative that you should construct should be as detailed and realistic as the truth is, and it's completely hard to do that. And you would need to support your lie with even more lies. So, and that's how lies become pathological, because whenever you need to because they need to be supported. That's how they become pathological. Lies don't stand on their own. They need to be supported by even more lies and deception. And the problem with lies is that lie splits your agency. It splits you on what you believe versus what you tell the other person or what you want to make him believe, so you deceive him. This is a separation. You believe in one thing, but you say another. You believe in one way of events unfolding, but you explain the completely another way that you should also construct and keep in your mind. And it's too many details, it's too much energy to make it convincing. You should be aware that because maybe it's not that solid and convincing, you get nervous, and then when you are aware of your nervousness, you should tighten your the control over yourself, so your nervousness would not appear. And this is exactly why we would sometimes overreact when we are asked to act, because we would tighten the control over ourselves, and we would and it would not come out naturally anymore, because usually a lot of or most of our movements would be unconscious, right? So the blinking of eyes, the movements of head and hands as well, we would not control them. But when we try to regulate ourselves so not to give up our nervousness, we would increase control, and we would fail to be, unless we're really good actors, to be natural anymore. And even if we are good actors, it's energy consuming unless you yourself believe it. That's why the best actors are the ones who actually become their characters and start to think like the characters, start to take on themselves their nature, so they would not need to act anymore, so it would come up naturally, right? That's why you need self-deception. So there would not be the split between how you want to act, what you believe in, what you actually think, and what you say, how you try to act, because the split is hard to maintain. But when you're deceiving yourself, you undermine the trust. When you deceive, you undermine the trust. When you're deceiving yourself, you undermine the trust in your own agency. You undermine the trust in your perception. When you start believing the false narrative and that you tell yourself, right? You start to be dependent upon this narrative, and you should now not be followed by your actually essential perception, but you now should move by the narrative you yourself tell. And the best way to see, well, one of the ways to see the self-deception is to notice when you stop yourself from questioning, from figuring out and being aware of what happens in reality, because then you start to notice you're living by dogma that is dogmatic, not because it wants you to believe in specific something, but because it doesn't allow to for you to know and inquire of the actual state of things. If they don't follow it, and if they're different from what you imagine and believe them to be. So that's how you know if there is a self-deception going on with you. If you are preventing yourself, stopping yourself from inquiry, because then you are living by your constructed narrative that needs to be followed in so much that you discard your own agency, you discard your perception, you discard your sensual data, you discard your comprehension. There are different, let's say, consciousness, right? But there are different maybe levels or of consciousness. You can comprehend something rationally, you can see something to be true, or as you feel it, or as you experience it emotionally, right? Essentially, especially. And when you start discard these things that are true for your perception, you start to disregard your maybe your emotions, feelings, or rationality, any parts of it. You start to disregard it, and you start stopping yourself from asking questions. That's how you know that you probably deceive yourself. Probably you have tightened yourself on the narrative that just does not stand on its own, and the narrative that you don't want to stop following. So this is about deception and self-deception, and the line it crosses with with your desired state of being. And now, well, the question is, well, how do you know if you lie to yourself, or you actually believe you want things to change, and that's why you do it? For example, when you are being kind to others, oftentimes we are hiding our anger, our negative emotions, and then we're trying to show ourselves to be more kind and merciful. Can we tell that we deceive ourselves? Not really. Not really, because we would deceive ourselves if we would think of ourselves as only, if we would disregard the truth or misrepresent it, if we would think that we're only kind and merciful, etc. But if we acknowledge the actual state of being, if we acknowledge that we've been angry, actually, we even can confirm it. But then we also acknowledge that we want it to change, and we acknowledge the goodness of the desired state of being, and we perhaps even acknowledge through what would we want to bring it on. Then we are still sincere with ourselves. We are sincere and we are honest, not because we just forecasted all our true feelings, but because we knew our actual feelings, and we decided not just misrepresent them, but we decided to change them. But in other cases, when, let's say, parents force their children, not maybe force, but manipulate, so they maybe a little bit push their children to be more respectful, or to act properly in social circumstances, right? Would it be a deception? Because now children are taught to act differently, not as they actually like. It would be the deception if children lack the awareness of their actual feelings and awareness of reasons why it is better for them to act otherwise, right? And if they don't misrepresent to others their actual feelings, their actual being, in a way that, oh yes, I'm only obedient to my parents, but if they consciously know that, well, maybe I'm not that obedient, they also can confirm it if they want to, but then they intentionally change it. This is not the deception. This is an action that aimed at a better end. An end that is acknowledged to be better. Right?